Come. I mixed well and welcome, WELL dash come to Quarantine Conversations. Today, excited. I have my Dodgers hat on for a very specific reason because we have our Dodger fan, tortilla blanket owning horse fan, Miss Olivia. Hello, Olivia. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good, good. I am. I thought about you this morning when I was getting ready, and I was like, man, I got to wear the Dodgers hat because the one of the biggest losses of quarantine has been the delay of baseball season.
hmm
How have you
Yeah.
how have you been handling that?
Um, it's been interesting because like the last few weeks I have to an extent kind of forgotten about it. I'll remember it like here and there. I remember like, oh, I had tickets for a game like next month
Oh
and
man,
don't know if that'll happen. But it was really rough like the first what should have been the first week
yeah,
of the baseball season. I remember I like what was supposed to be opening day. I like wore a Dodgers shirt and my Dodgers hoodie and went and watched MLB had like previous games that
right,
you could
right,
watch. So I went and
yeah.
watched one and was like on the verge of tears all day. I
That's
was,
so sad.
yeah.
That sucks. And some
I'm not
people
even
some people
now.
watching are going to be like, I don't care about sports that much, but it's like imagine if they canceled your favorite X, Y, or Z. Like it's disappointing, and we put
Mm-hmm.
so much happiness into these things that are just done now, and so I can imagine that's hard. Have you gotten like refunds for those tickets and stuff?
Nope, I haven't. I know.
Uh
My sister has
oh.
like 20 something games this season or something that she was supposed to go to
Oh my
and hasn't
gosh.
gotten a refund for any of them because they're still just like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. We might
Yeah.
reschedule, like, whatever.
Well, I suppose that's right, but at the same time, like that's super stressful. Not only is it a emotional loss, but it's a financial loss as well.
Yeah.
That sucks. That really
Yeah.
sucks. So has that been the most disappointing part about quarantine for you? The lack of baseball, or what's been difficult, particularly in this season for you?
Lack of baseball has been really hard.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like a staple,
Yeah, for sure.
especially because like spring and summer are like my favorite times of year.
Hmm.
And so it's just like the mark that like, okay, winter's over, we're gonna get into like the warm weather, we're gonna get into summer and like all of that. It's just like in my mind, baseball is like the start of all of that.
Yeah.
Um, in addition to that, I haven't been able to work.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
ask about that too.
that's been depressing. And I don't know. Like those are like the two big
Yeah.
ones. Um, and aside from that, like it's been okay.
Yeah.
I'm definitely an introvert, and
Hmm.
so there's a lot of good that I can find in all of this.
Yeah,
But
that's good. What are some of the good you've been finding? I'm sure a lot of students would resonate with that. Like there's some good here. What have you found?
just being alone, nice.
I love it.
um,
You're like, I'm an introvert. What do you expect me to say?
right. Yeah, and then just I mean, it's on the one hand, it's like, oh, I don't have a job. I don't know where my next paycheck's going to
Yeah.
be. But on the other hand, I have no like priorities and I can just sleep whenever
Hmm.
and I can eat whenever. And
Hmm.
it's just,
That's rad.
I kind of, in a way, I do for like a certain period of time thrive off of having no schedule.
Yeah,
So that's been really nice. It's been really relaxing.
that's good. I like hearing that. And I like hearing that you've made the best out of it because I think a lot of people could probably look at it the opposite way and you're finding the good in it. And that's awesome. And you didn't explicitly say this, but I hear you kind of saying like, there's a lot of self care here. Like, I
Mhm.
think, I saw a funny tweet that said, I never met a screen time I couldn't justify, meaning like I never, like on the iPhone, it says how long you've been on your phone. Like
Mhm.
I never met a screen time I couldn't justify. And I think that's good. Like in this season to give yourself a little bit of break, give yourself some
Mhm.
grace and be like, well, I'm going to eat or I'm going to rest and stuff. So talk to me about how you've been maintaining a good self-care routine to have this good attitude in the midst of kind of a hard situation.
Yeah. I think for me, like the biggest things have been when I get really busy. the first things I sacrifice are sleep and food, which is awful because those are like the main things you need as a human being.
Yeah.
But when my work schedule gets really crazy, or just like social life or anything, it's like, okay, well, I can fit all of this in if I only get 6 hours of sleep. And if I just like, oh, I don't really need to eat lunch, I'll just take a protein bar in the car and be on my way, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been really good to actually like not set an alarm and just let myself sleep until I'm good, and like actually cook. I've been cooking like almost every day, which is insane.
Speaking my language. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And I think that it's a huge thing I hope students are hearing, like to allow yourself the freedom to sleep or to eat or to do whatever you need to do in order to kind of feel a little bit better. Such a unique time. You know, it's going to be a while. And like, if you set up really gnarly patterns, you're going to have a really tough time. So that's really cool to hear. So self-care is going well. Talk to me about soul care then. You're an introvert, so you like spending time alone. What has time with God been like in this season?
That's been really interesting because it's been like frustrating to, at least like on my end, you know, God doesn't change obviously, but I'm like frustrated with him, all the usual stuff of just like, why do you allow this? Why would you put us through this? Like, where's the good in this kind of stuff? So I've been wrestling with a lot of those questions, but it's been good because I've been realizing a lot about myself, that I put a lot of my worth in like material things, mainly my job, like first and foremost. And to just have that like completely stripped away has made me realize just like how unhealthy that is and how much I need to be putting all that trust in God and all that faith in God. And I feel a little like, I say that knowing it's a good thing, but I feel a little bit like a toddler who's been put in timeout, you know, and I'm going kicking and screaming the whole way. So yeah, it's been interesting. I feel like I go through this in phases, and I'm sort of coming out of the like kicking and screaming and fighting God phase into acceptance of like, this is a good thing, and I'm going to come out of this learning how to trust God better, but like I'm not quite there yet. So
no, and that's super wise, and you're dropping so many nuggets of wisdom here that I hope people are just picking up on. Like, it's a process, you know, and what if we looked at this season like a process versus looking at it like as something happening to us? If I can learn something from this and something can come out on the other end, then this will all have been good and worth it, even though it was kind of hard and there was some pretty lame parts of it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So as an introvert, have you been missing like the social interaction at all? Or have you been getting enough with like your roommates and with Matt and stuff, or what's been going on there?
I do miss it a lot. I've been missing just like, I don't know, just like little things. Like I did a virtual brunch with a friend the other day, which was really awesome. And we just like sat and talked, and we hadn't talked in a few months or so. So we just caught up for like 3 hours, which was really great. But the whole time I was just like, I wish we were doing this in person.
For sure.
So it's just not the same, you know? So in some ways, like my social life hasn't changed too much because I'm like talking to people online, but it does, at the same time, it feels completely different because we're not in person. Yeah. So I don't know. It's been like, I just feel like the relationships I still have, like the people I still see are, it's been really deep. Like I see my parents once a week, and that's like great. That relationship has gotten so much better. Yeah. And like, I still see Matt here and there, and that's getting really good. So, but I'm not seeing like all my friends and all the people all the time. So yeah.
There's a give and take. Do you think you're going to come out of this season an extrovert?
No.
No chance. That's super funny. What are you learning in this? Okay, so I can reframe that then. What are you learning about yourself, particularly the way that you're social in this season that you hope to take out of quarantine? Because you talked about like deep relationships and things are getting better. What are you learning in relationships that you want to bring out of this season then?
It's a good question. I've always kind of known that I'm the kind of person who has like a few really close friends instead of like a bunch of people around me all the time. I've always known that about myself. And I think I just need reminders constantly that that's okay.
That's
It's
great.
like, you see other people, especially like as an introvert, who sometimes I surround myself with extroverts, to kind of bring me up. And I see them with like, oh, they just hang out with all these people and they have all these like good connections and everything. And I have to remind myself that like, that's okay that I'm not like that. So I think I'm coming out of this being like, I think I'll have a lot more grace for myself for like,
So
if
good.
I need to go home and sleep instead of hang out with such and such person, that's okay.
So good. That's great.
So yeah.
That's awesome. I think that is like such a great lesson to learn. And again, I think that this whole season for me and talking to all the leaders and staff, like to have these lessons and they're, God's using this time to teach us, like we wouldn't learn them any other way. And I keep going back. That's a great image of like a toddler. Like sometimes you have to put the toddler in timeout or else they're going to keep doing what they're doing. You have to take it away. And that's great. And I think it's awesome to hear you say you want quality over quantity with relationship. Because if you spread yourself too thin, then you'll have nothing to give anybody, even if it is only 2 or 3 people. But if to have a short, small group of friends that you can really, dive into, that's huge. That is huge. And I hope you're maintaining time with them. Have you been doing like, this is just with my group of friends, like we've been doing a lot of things over Zoom that we've never done before. Like, let's do a Zoom game night. It's like, we don't even do game night in person. My mom's like, let's Zoom and do this. And I'm like, well, just talk. We just talk. We don't need to do like a Zoom happy hour. It's just so funny. Like we're getting really creative about how we do this.
Yeah. I don't think I've had anything specifically like that. But I don't know. Yeah, it is kind of funny how that happens. It's like, I know I have a few friends who we don't talk a ton. But all of a sudden they just feel like, oh, now I have to catch up with everyone.
Yeah.
It's fine. And I love it, but it's just like, now I have the time and now I have to go catch up with everyone. So I've had a few of those where it's like, hey, I want to call, I want to talk, whatever. It's like, we don't usually talk anyway, but I'm happy to, so.
Like if this is going to be the thing that gets us talking again, that's good. But let's call it and say like, we weren't like biffles before we started, quarantining. Yeah, that's funny. Like people, that's fun. I had a friend do that, and it was a great conversation, and it led to some good talks. But I was thinking, like, I'm taking 45 minutes out of a weekend to talk to you right now. Like, oh, I don't know. That says more about me than them. Anyway, Olivia, appreciate you talking, being so vulnerable and honest, man. So some really good stuff here. But I want to ask, and I have 2 questions for you in this realm. But the first one is the one I ask everybody. One thing you're doing, watching, reading in quarantine that you want everybody to experience, or something that's just bringing you joy in this time?
So I read a lot and I've been reading a lot. But one of the things that has been cool is because I spend a lot of time at the public library and I can't do that now. So I've actually been rereading a lot of stuff.
Nice.
Just books that I actually own.
Look at you back there.
So it's cool because I've always said, I finish a book or a book series, I'm like, that was so awesome. In a couple years, I'm going to reread it again when I've forgotten some of it. And then I never do. So I've been rereading some of the stuff that was my favorite books in high school.
Okay. Like what?
So, right now I'm actually going through, where is it? The Heroes of Olympus series, which is
goodness.
Sequel to Percy Jackson.
Great.
And it's one of my favorite books ever.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like a kid's book a little bit.
Young adult, right?
The way he develops the characters is just, it's so good. There's so much.
That's so rad.
So I'm rereading that right now.
That's so rad. How many books are there in the series?
I think there's 5.
Okay. So you got some time.
Yeah.
What library do you miss? Is it Redondo or Torrance?
Redondo.
Okay. So do you know Hoopla and Canopy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use Hoopla.
That's what I've been using too. Canopy is great for movies, and then Hoopla is great for books and stuff. So for those of you who don't know, Hunter and Olivia are gonna bring you the side podcast called Library Tips, where if you have a library card at even PV and torrents, you can sign onto this website and you can get ebooks and movies and stuff. It's great, and Hoopla is great, and I totally recommend it. They have a lot of comic books on there.
Oh, really?
Like a lot of graphic novels, yeah. I'm not a big comic book guy, as many people know, but there are some like Star Wars stuff I enjoy. So that's great. You love reading. I'm very happy about that. But the last thing I want to ask you is you're wearing a Face Down Records t-shirt, which people don't know what that is. It's a Christian hardcore like metal label. And so I got to ask Olivia, what are we listening to in quarantine? Is it more towards like the harder stuff to be like getting all your anger and angst out, or is it like the kind of mellow emo stuff to be like, this is how I'm feeling right now? I'm very curious with you.
It's both. You hit it spot on. It's both.
We're mixing them.
As I showed on the Instagram takeover, I've been exercising a lot and running like almost every day.
Nice.
So it's been like, that's like my way to get out all my like angst and anger. And so I've been listening to a lot of like heavy stuff during that time. But like the rest of the time when I'm driving, when I'm hanging out at home, I've been listening to a lot of like sad emo punk.
Yeah, that's great.
Which the other day, Matt was like, I was showing him some of the music I listen to. He's like, no wonder you're depressed. This is what you listen to. And
you're like, no, it helps, Matt. Like, you don't understand. Like, you would never have been an emo kid if you don't understand that it helps, Matt. Yeah. I'm having a very strong reaction to this because I've had that conversation with like every person in my life. Like, listen how sad this song is. Isn't it great? And they're like, why are you listening to this? That's funny. So what's like, okay, so if students listening to this, like, I want to listen to some angsty music. What's one angsty band you'd recommend? And then one of like the softer emo-y bands.
I'm going to do the softer band first. Off of Face Down Records, there's this band called Weathered.
Okay.
And like no one knows about them. They have like 100 fans in the world.
So we're in early with Weathered.
Yeah, but they're from Minnesota. And I just saw them play at the beginning of March. They were out here.
Lucky them. Buzzer shot.
So good. They're so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're more of like a punk rock
cool
kind of thing, but it's very, very like emotional and hits really deep.
Really deep. Good quarantine tunes. Okay, so Weathered, but let's go. We're going for a run. We want to pump up. We want to punch something. What are we listening to?
Shoot, that's a good question. I've actually have been listening to a lot of Norma Jean lately.
Norma Jean.
I normally don't. That's like a weird one for me. They're not usually my kind of band, but I've been listening to not their newest one, but the one before that. I think it was called Polar Similar.
Okay.
And all their albums are so good. Like you literally can't go wrong with Norma Jean.
So students, if you're listening to this and you want to like a couple word description of Norma Jean, it's very hectic music.
Yeah.
Like, so if you are feeling hectic right now and life is chaotic, man, just put on Norma Jean. You'd be like, oh, this sounds just like how I'm feeling. And that's the beauty of music. That's awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. I was like super amped. I'm like, I'm going to get some good band recommendations, and students are going to turn on some music at home, and the parents are going to be like, what is this ministry teaching you? Like, why are you listening to these? Yeah. Thumbs up. Olivia, thank you so much. Such a good time to check in and connect. And I hope all goes well for you, and enjoy sleeping. That's my word for you. Enjoy sleeping, and we'll see you in person soon. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks.